Here comes a new challenger!
Hello and welcome back again to another Challenger TCG set review. This is going to be our final set review. We're covering the Domain of Order. For those of you who haven't watched these before, we rank every card in the set on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. And we're going to start off with Blast of Power for 6 energy and 1 power. This is a spell at action speed that says kill a unit at a battlefield. What do you think, Alex?
I mean, it's pretty standard spot removal. We've seen it for cheaper. There are alternate forms of this. We have one that's not action speed that costs an extra power for 4. We have one that gives temporary at 4. There's a couple different modes on this. This is like kind of the first straight up one. It is action speed. It's a little expensive in my opinion. I think they're just cheaper alternatives for better, especially in this color. But it is still action speed spot removal, so if there ever is a control, like a full control deck in this color, I think this card is playable. This is like pretty average as far as spot removal goes, like not great, not terrible. Overall, I mean, there's not much to say about this. I'd say this card's a 5 out of 10. It's just like okay costing spot removal.
Yeah, I think that I agree with 5. If this killed at home, this card might be kind of crazy, but battlefield restriction plus the high cost, I think 5 is fine. Next up, we have Garen Commander for 6 energy and a power. This is a 5 might unit that says other friendly units have +1 might here.
I mean, following in the pattern of Garen's, this card is terrible. This is a 6 for 5, so it's already understated. It costs a power, and it gives other units +1 here, but like we've talked about so many times before, in the current meta, people don't really stack up points like that. You're not going like 4 or 5 wide in a point a lot of the times to really get the value out of this. This guy's not even like a vanilla beat stick. He's actually just understated for what he costs. Plus he costs a power. This guy is pretty much just awful all around. His effect is very close to vanilla tier. I would say this card's like a 2 out of 10. This is just pretty much a 6 for 1 power for 5 with almost no upside. This card sucks.
Yeah, it's continuing in the trend of bad Garens for sure.
Yeah, someone at Riot really must hate Garen because this is not it, guys.
Yeah, I'll give it a 2 as well. You guys will see too later on. There's actually a Darius with this exact line of text and this exact same cost and higher stats. So even if you wanted a card, even if you were in for a card like this, even if you wanted an Anthem guy at 6, Darius is just literally this card but better in every single way, so there's no reason to play Garen.
Unless you wanted to use him in your champion slot if you were playing the champion legend, which if you check out our champions tier or legends tier list, he is the worst legend in the game. Yep. So
Next up, we have Lux Crown Guard for 4 energy. This is a 2 might unit that has exhaust reaction, add 2 energy, use only to play spells.
So this feels more like a gear than a unit, but the problem is it's susceptible to all the removals that come along with being a unit. It's a 4 for 2, or it's a 2 for 4, which is very understated. This card's not going to do combat very often, also because it has to tap itself for its ability. It's like I said, this is pretty much just a living gear that's making 2 resources, which not great. There are probably some niche applications in a spell-based deck where this might be okay, but it does cost 4, and again, very vulnerable to removal. I don't see this card being very playable overall. Even if spell decks get a little bit better, I don't think this is all that great. I'm gonna give this card I'm gonna give it a 4, and I think maybe that's a little too high, but 2 energy is still a lot, so I'll give it a 4.
Yeah, I was gonna say 4 as well for the Lux. I think that where this card will shine, which is pretty much the only place it's seeing play, is in the Lux deck, because I don't think I would ever want to put these in my deck, but when you just have the option with your champion to start with this in your hand every turn and guarantee that you can play it on turn 2, and then you can like untap next turn, assuming you don't get Falling Starred, and then start playing like 8 cost spells, that might be kind of cool. If we start getting a lot of like really high-end spells, maybe that will work even better in the future, but right now it's basically only playable in Lux, and even then it's not like fantastic. Next up we have Recruit the Vanguard. This is a 6 energy spell at action speed that says play 4 1 might recruit unit tokens.
Again, this is not great. It doesn't provide a lot of stats. Like, there are some synergies that I could definitely see with this. One of them being Garen, which we've already established is unplayable. So I guess if you're looking for a way to really make Garen good, this might be it. But even making 4 1/1 units at action speed isn't great. They can only go in battlefields you control, so they can't, if your opponent's trying to capture a battlefield that you don't already control, you can't even use this to contest there. Costing 6 is a lot. Like, that's way below rate. That you're effectively getting a 4/4 stats for 6, even at action speed. Simply not worth it. I don't think this card is very good. I'm going to give this card a 3.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a 4 just because I think that there might be a couple uses for it, like in maybe Lux, the big spell decks at some point, but even then it's still not very impressive. It still is definitely underrated. You do get that 4 power across 4 different bodies, but even in this game you can only take 2 points max, so that doesn't matter all that much. Next up we have Vanguard Attendant for 6 energy and a power. This is a 5 might unit that says I enter ready.
This is very baseline for what I would expect like a haste unit to be. It's a 6 for 1 power with 5 might. I mean, this is just very basic, very average. He doesn't suck. He's not great. I would give this guy just a 5 across the board. There's not much to say about him. He's just like pretty much what I expect an on-curve haster to be.
Yeah, I like 5 for this guy. He's just decent. We saw Warwick in body have basically this exact same stat line, except he had an additional line of text on top of I enter ready. So this guy's just like a little bit worse Warwick in order. Next up we have Back to Back for 3 energy. This is a spell at reaction speed that says give 2 friendly units each plus 2 might this turn.
So another one that was almost copy and pasted straight from Runeterra, although in Runeterra it was +3/+3 to 2 different units, but this card is still pretty decent here. I like this as a buff. It costs 3, no power. It effectively gives you 4 might, which it does require 2 bodies, but for 3 energy, that is kind of above rate. It's reaction speed, so you can play it in response to any damage-based removal. I think this card is fine. I like this card. It's one of the better buff spells in the game. I would give this card a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I like 6 for Back to Back as well. It's a really solid combat trick. Definitely playable in like the token decks and a lot of the different like order-based tempo decks. I like it. Next up, we have Call to Glory. This is a 3 energy spell at reaction speed that says as you play this, you may spend a buff as an additional cost. If you do, ignore this spell's cost and give a unit +3 might this turn.
Yeah, so I've talked about this before. Cards that are effectively 0 mana or have the option to be are usually one of 2 things, unplayable or broken. This card falls closer in line with the broken part. I think this card's incredible. It's one of the single best cards in set. It's very hard to play around because it's the only thing your opponent can play while they're tapped out. It's so good. +3 for 3 reaction speed is almost on rate. Like that's like we talked about. Back to Back is 4. Well, this is pretty close to that. But now it just has the option of being pretty much free. You do spend a buff, but in the set deck, for example, that's very insignificant. I think this card is incredible. I think it is one of the cards that actually holds the set deck up because of its ability to just protect units, win fights, and just allows you to completely tap out. I give this card like an 8 out of 10. I think this card is really good. Like, I think the only thing that really holds it back is it only really sees play in the set deck because of how kind of a lot of decks don't really play the buff game right now, or they're not as efficient at doing it as set is. So I think if it wasn't for that, this card would be a lot more played than it is currently.
Yeah, I was going to give it a 7 just because in a vacuum, I think that it's still good. Like Alex said, like reaction speed +3 helps you win a lot of fights, helps you dodge a lot of kill spells. But if you don't have buffs, it's still just like a solid combat trick, nothing crazy. But in the buff deck, this card is pretty absurd. Next up, we have Cruel Patron at 4 energy and 6 might. This card says, as an additional cost to play me, kill a friendly unit.
So we talked about beat sticks and ones with downsides or a little upside, and that the earlier in the curve they are, the better they are. Well, this guy is a beat stick, and an early one at that. Now, he does cost an additional unit to play, and for some decks, that's just unacceptable. But in decks like Victor, for example, in decks that are playing a lot of these 2-drops that have some benefit when they die, whether they draw, whether they get you a piece of ramp, whatever they do, this card is a house. This card is just so good. Even having to sack like a 2-drop unit in some decks that don't necessarily want to sack units, this is still a very good card. 6/6 that we've seen on some 6-drops don't even have that stat. I think this guy is solid, especially in decks like Victor. And as we see more legends that are able to maybe create bodies, I think this guy will see more and more play. I'm going to give this guy a 7 out of 10. I think he's just solid.
Yeah, I think his stat line is just pretty insane. And like you said, even if I had to kill an actual unit, you're going to probably lose your first unit on the crackback anyway. So a lot of the times you could just like send the first unit you played to the point, take the point, and then sack it, and you don't even feel bad because your opponent had played something that was going to kill it anyway. So then you just get this like really overstated dude on the second turn of the game, and that could just like run away with the game. There's a lot of decks that really can't deal with a 6 might unit that early in the game, and you could just like hold the point for forever and just really screw with your opponent's tempo. I really like World Patron. I'll give him a 7 as well. Next up, we have Cull the Weak for 2 energy and a power. This is a spell that says each player kills one of their units.
This is hands down one of the best removal in the game by far. I mean, this card is absolutely incredible. As far as spot removal goes, this card is so good. It's especially good in Victor, but it's still acceptable in decks like Set, decks where you are just looking to trade one of your weenies for maybe one of their big guys. This is the absolute bane of any ramp deck or Aurora's deck's existence, because they're looking to just ramp, play their Dazzling Aurora, and then start churning bombs out. But when they do that, or they don't find the Aurora, they're just tapping out every turn to play a creature, and you're just like, okay, I'll pay 2, kill it. It does cost a power, but I think that's very mild considering this is pretty much a spot removal. It is pretty much terrible against any deck that goes wide, kind of like the Victor decks or some of the aggro decks. But even against aggro decks, it can still just be like a 1-for-1. Sometimes you even play it on turn 1. As not great as that is, just to like, you don't have another place, you're just like, you know what, you played a guy, I'll kill it. It's fine. I didn't like paying a power, but it's still acceptable it's better than just passing my turn. I think this card is incredible and one of the best removals. I'm going to give this card an 8 out of 10. I think this card's awesome.
Yeah, I like 8 for Cull the Weak. Don't have too much more to add, but yeah, just things that kill at base. We've already talked about how good those are. And this is going to kill things at base most times. You can also just like trade on the thing that's in the point. If they have like a weak guy and a pretty good guy that they just played on turn 2, you could just kill whatever's on the point by taking it with a Conquer, and then you can play the Cull the Weak after, killing the thing that you just took the point with and whatever their good card is sitting at base. So this thing just really lines up really well, and it is the bane of the Aurora decks for sure. Next up, we have Daring Poro for 2 energy and 2 might. This is a unit with Assault.
So this is like probably one of the best 2-drops in the game, and it's certainly one of the most played ones in the game. It's continuing in the cycle of Poros. It's a 2-for-2, but its upside is Assault, so it's actually a 3 when it attacks. So where this is like the best actually is when you go second, because your opponent plays their unit turn 1, you play this on turn 2, they move into the point, and then you attack back over that unit. And this is pretty much going to clear out every single 2 in the game, with the exception of the Poro that has Shield 1. So I mean, this card is just incredible. This is like one of the few 2-drops that I think gets above that good 2-drop threshold of 6, and I actually think this card's a 7. I like it better than the Shield Poro, only because I think attacking with bigger strength is a lot better than blocking with a buff. You can just choose where you move it. You have the option of being able to move it wherever you want, whereas when you're defending, you don't really get to choose what comes into you. So I think this might be close to the best 2-drop in the game. It's between this, Vi, and another card we're going to discuss in this video. I'm going to give this card a 7 out of 10. This is pretty much as close to as good of a 2-drop can get as a 2-drop can get.
I agree with 7. I think Daring Poro is one of the best 2-drops in the game. Even though this card is almost vanilla, that Assault is really actually so impactful, and it matters so much in the early game. Next up, we have Faithful Manufactor for 3 energy. This is a 2 might unit that says when you play me, play a 1 might recruit unit token here.
So it's kind of like a 3 for 3, except you get to split it up across 2 bodies, which is helpful because that lets you can move them into 2 points if you need to, especially if those points are uncontested. It's also good if you have any sort of like Anthem-based like board buff spells. And unlike the create 4 1/1 recruit tokens, it costs half of that. You get half the bodies, but you actually get better stats on rate. This is giving you 3 might worth of stats, whereas that spell's only giving you 4 might. I think this card is pretty all right. This is a hard one. I want to give it like a 5 because I know I just talked it up, but it is still like kind of average as far as like effects goes. But it's like closer to a 5.5, maybe a 6. I'll be generous. I'll give this a 6. It's a little below that in my mind, but this is a decent card. I like it.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6 for this card as well. I like the versatility, and in this color, we're gonna see like cards like Baited Hook and other decks can really utilize the 2 bodies quite a bit and turn this card into like even more real cards. But even at a baseline, I just think in the token strategies, this is a solid unit. Next up is Hidden Blade for 2 energy and a power. This is a spell with Hidden at an action speed. It can kill a unit at a battlefield, and its controller draws 2.
This is the go-to spot removal. This is the single best spot removal in the game and probably the best card in yellow as a whole. My God, is this card broken. We featured it in our top 10 list. I can't remember exactly where it fell, but man, this card is absolutely insane. So for just the low cost of 2 energy, you can delete any unit your opponent controls at a battlefield. And if that weren't cheap enough, you can also set it as a hidden, and now it only costs you a power, which it was already costing you anyways if you cast it from hand. That's not good enough for you? Well, fine. You can delete your own guy and draw 2 if you want to. This card has so much versatility, so many use cases. It's just so powerful. You can kill their guys for tempo if you're playing against like a ramp deck and all you care about is just deleting the guys and the cards in hand don't matter. You can hit your own guys if you just need to draw 2, and 2 for 2 is very much on rate, especially in token decks where you're not really losing a card, you're just drawing 2 for 2. I mean, this card is just simply insane. One of the best, if not the best removal in the game, and definitely the best spot removal in this game. This card is a 9 out of 10. I mean, goddamn, this card is just so good.
Yeah, I think Hidden Blade is the best spot removal in the game. A 9 is an easy rate for this one. It's just really versatile, can do everything you want, and yeah, not too much more to say. It's just one of the best cards. Like 2 mana, kill anything is just like delete a 12 drop for 2. It's crazy. Next up, we have Forge the Future for 2 energy. This is a gear that says when you play this, play a 1 might recruit unit token at your base, and you can kill it to recycle up to 4 cards from trashes.
I mean, this is like, you get a 1 for 2. It does have the upside of being able to cycle cards, which might be useful as a sideboard card in this color, but right now there's not really a mill type strategy. If there ever was that, I guess this would be good. Now, there's not a mill deck right now, and its baseline effect is not very good. And recurring cards right now, there's not like a real way to abuse that, so at least not to your deck. I'm going to give this card a 4 out of 10, and the only reason it even gets a 4 is because I see the potential as a sideboard card, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think 4 is fine for Forge of the Future. This is pretty much only seeing play currently in Order Aurora decks because it is like a unit that you can play that's not actually a unit because it's coming off of a gear. So it like allows you to actually have an early game unit and maybe take some points or maybe like contest a token or something. But it is only a 1 might unit, so it's not like you could do that much contesting. But it is interesting that it's a unit that's not a unit that you can put in your deck. If we find more things like Aurora that care about that in the future, maybe this will continue to see more play. Next up, we have Petty Officer for 5 energy. This is a 5 might unit with Assault 1.
This might as well be a vanilla. This card could literally be a 6 for 5, and it would be actually be better because it's only Assault. There's not much to say about this card. This is just like a worse than that, a worse than 6 for 5. I'm gonna give this card like a 3 out of 10. We've already seen 5s for 5 that have real effects or better stats. Like this ain't it.
Yeah, not a fan of this card. It's almost a vanilla. I'll give it a 3 as well. Next up, we have Soaring Scout for 2 energy. This is a 1 might unit that says Death Knell, channel 1 Ruin, exhausted.
This is the GOAT of 2-drops in my opinion. I have a soft spot for this card because I am a Victor player. I love this card. I think this card is absolutely incredible. I talked before about how there was a 2-drop in this video that I thought was just as good as the Poro, and this is it. This card's just incredible. It is just like, if all you're trying to do is push empty points and you don't care about your guys dying, this is it. This is the guy you want. You're just throwing him at a point, you just don't care what happens to him. In fact, you want him to die just so you can channel this 1 extra rune. I mean, this card is so good. He exemplifies everything that something like Victor deck or like some sort of like aggro deck where you're just throwing things away. He synergizes with Cole the Weak, where you're just like, okay, I already have a guy on board, but I'm just going to sack this guy. I'm going to get my power back from Cole, and now I get to kill one of your guys too. I mean, this guy's incredible. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. He, in my mind, is tied with Vi and the Assault Poro for best 2-drop in the game.
Yeah, I can see that. I think Soaring Scout's really strong, especially like Alex said in the Victor deck. Like, this really helps fill your curve perfectly. Like, it's everything that the Victor deck wants for your turn 1 play. And like, you can play this as your first turn and you don't care that it gets traded over. And then like your second turn, you could play Poros so that when they do trade this over, then your Poro is going to trade over whatever they played to trade over this, because as we said, the Poro can already kill everything. It's just a really great curve filler in this color. I'll give it a 7 as well. Next up, we have Trifarian Glory Seeker for 2 energy. This is a 2 might unit with Legion. It says, when you play me, buff me.
Another really solid 2. Just the ability to be a 3. You do have to play something else in the turn, but decks like Darius are going to be playing the seals, so you just play that for free, then you play this. That's the only way to do it on curve for 2 and make it a 3, but I still think that's pretty good when you do it. And then in other turns, if you're just going wide, this is just a 3 for 2, which is above rate. Like I said, the only thing that holds this card back is a lot of times you're going to be forced to play this on curve. You're going to be forced to keep a hand with this because it's good, and you don't want to mull this away. And you might have to play this on 2 when you don't actually have a Legion trigger going, and then it's just a 2 for 2, which is just an on-rate vanilla unit. But the upside is good enough where I would give this card a 6 out of 10. I think this card is solid.
Yeah, I like 6 for the Glory Seeker. Don't have too much else to add. Next up, we've got Vanguard Captain for 3 energy and a power. This is a 3 might unit that says Legion. When you play me, play 2 1 might recruit tokens here.
So this makes 5 power and 3 bodies for 3. It does cost a power, but that's fine. I mean, 5 might across 3 bodies. We already saw where we have a 6 spell that makes 4 might across 4 bodies. This is that, but better. It costs a power. It does have a Legion enabler, but as long as you have that seal, you can do this right away on turn 1. This is incredible in the hook decks. It's very good in the Darius decks. Like, there's a lot of combo enabling that you can do with this deck by just making 3 bodies, especially if you do it on turn 1. I think this card is very good. It's especially good in Darius. I think the only thing that holds it back from a wider variety of play is obviously the Legion trigger is hard for some decks, especially to do early, and paying a power on a 3 cost is sometimes a little bit much. But I think this card is very good. I'm going to give this card a 7 out of 10. I think it's solid.
Yeah, I like 7 for the Captain. I think in Darius, this card would get even more points. It's definitely really insane,
Yeah.
but there is going to be times where like you just draw not a good hand for Legion and you actually have to play this as a 3 for 3 that costs a power, and you're not going to be happy about that.
Yep.
Next up, we've got Vanguard Sergeant, 4/4 vanilla.
I mean, it's a 4/4 vanilla, guys. There's not much to say about it. It's a 3, I guess. Like, I'd give it a 2 just for disrespecting us with even printing something like this. But yeah, I mean, it's like fine. We'll give it a 3. I mean, it's terrible. I don't know what to say about it.
Yeah, I'll give it a 2. I hate vanillas. It's my catchphrase now.
Here's your vanilla.
Actually, I want a chocolate.
Next up, we have Facebreaker for 2 energy. This is a spell with Hidden. At action speed, you can stun a friendly unit and an enemy unit at the same battlefield.
So this is a stun for 2, but you have to stun your own guy, and it has to be a guy at the same battlefield. So this card is, we've already seen stuns on rate that are pretty much better than this. I don't really see a whole lot of useful applications for this card. It just seems like a strict downgrade on a lot of the stun cards we've seen already. It does have the upside of being hidden, but again, you still have to stun your own guy. So like, unless you have multiple guys at the same battlefield, which, like we've talked about, is not super common in the current meta, there's not really a whole lot you can do with this. You can stun both guys to stop them both. Like if you're holding a point and a guy tries to move in there with the hidden, you can stun the guy that's moving in, or with the action speed, you can stun the guy that's moving in. But I'm not sure why you wouldn't just want to play a stun that's more reliable than that. I just, overall, I don't think this is very good. You can't even like position a guy in another battlefield or somewhere else and then stun them. It has to be in the same battlefield. I don't think this card is very good, to be honest. I'm going to give this card a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I think Facebreaker's a little underwhelming. I do think that there is some use for it maybe in like the Leona deck, because they're just trying to like play every stun that they can. But I would imagine that as we get better, more efficient stun cards in this color, like this would probably be first up on the chopping block. There is also some synergies with like tokens and stuff. Like stunning a token doesn't really matter that much, so like it's an okay combat trick, I guess, but I'm not super impressed. I'll probably give it like a 4. It's just not super impressive. Also kind of weird because like the art makes it look like two guys' heads are being like conked together, but you're like conking your own guy. Just a little bit weird flavor wise too. Next up, we have Imperial Decree for 5 energy and 2 power. This is a spell at action speed that says when any unit takes damage this turn, kill it.
This card's interesting. Doesn't see a lot of play right now, but it is interesting. There's a lot of potential board wipe combos that could be set up with this. Like the deal 1 to everything. Like there's potential here. It does cost 2 power, which kind of reflects that potential, because I think they saw that and said, okay, anything we design now that's like some sort of AoE effect, we have to think about how does it interact with this. So I can definitely see this card being played in the future, especially when we do get enough AoEs where you're just trying to like 2-card board wipe or something. It is double-sided, which is kind of rough, but it does allow you to like turn your tokens into death touchers, which is kind of nice. You can send them in there and they kind of do something. They kind of do something more effective. They kind of turn into spot removals. I think this card's all right. I think there's potential there. It's not seeing a lot of play now. It's not really seeing any play, but I could see where this card gets a lot better. I'm going to give this card a 5 out of 10, but I can see the potential here. This card could easily be like a 7 out of 10. It could just be like a board wipe combo piece. I like it. It's just not there yet.
Yeah, I like 5 for this card. I think pretty much only seeing play in some Victor sideboards is like a 1 of, if at all. But I do think that the card has a lot of potential, especially if we start getting like some kind of AoE, like deal 1 to everything on the board or something, and we can actually turn this into like a true Wrath. That would be pretty crazy. And it is Azir on the art, which is already a confirmed legend for next set, so we're pretty sure that Azir is going to be in this color. And you know, in League, Azir summons all these extra like sand units around him and stuff, so he's probably going to be token based. So it seems like they kind of designed this with token based strategies in mind. Next up, we have Noxian Drummer for 3 energy. This is a 3 might unit. This is when I move to a battlefield, play a 1 might recruit token here.
So it's a 3 for 3. I mean, that's already on rate. And then when it moves to a battlefield, you get even more. So now it's a 4 for 3, but that's also split up across 2 bodies. So you have the upside of being able to use that body. It doesn't usually survive combat, but if it moves to an open battlefield, you're going to get to keep that token now too, which is really good, especially in these token-based strategies. A lot of the yellow decks do actually play this. I think this card is very solid, and it's one of the better 3s in the game. Just like a lot of, not just the extra might, but just the utility of the extra body. I'm going to give this card a 7 out of 10. I think this is just a solid 3-drop.
Yeah, I like 7 for the drummer. Just no power cost on this is great, and it could just be an engine in itself on a 3-drop, and that's really strong. Next up, we have Peak Guardian for 6 energy and a power. This is a 5 might unit that says when you play me, buff me, then if I am at the battlefield, buff all other friendly units there.
So I could see where this works as a buff engine in like a buff heavy deck, but again, not really putting a lot of guys in battlefields at one time. It's rare that you're just stacking up these points like this. And then this guy also costs a power. He's effectively understated, so he is going to get a buff. So they like made him so like, oh, he's a 5, but look, now he's a 6. So he like plays himself on rate, and then he can buff other guys, but he still costs a power. You're not really trying to stack up battlefields, so you're not going to get a whole lot of buffs off this. And you have to kind of like engage in a risky maneuver where you put this guy in a battlefield that already has guys, and if your opponent has some way to just kind of blow out that battlefield, you've kind of wasted this. I don't like this guy very much. I could see where maybe mass buff becomes a thing and you need just a bunch of buffs. And this is like one of the few cards that does give you a lot of buffs off of one card. But I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10. We're just not there yet. And even if we are, it would have to be something very powerful to warrant playing this guy.
Yeah, I think he's just a little too high up in the curve. I think if this was like a 4 cost with this ability, he'd be pretty insane. He'd be like almost like another Kinko Monk, but still a little bit worse because of his restrictions. But yeah, at 6, I just think he's too late in the game for an effect like this to really be impactful. Next up, we have Salvage for 2 energy and a power. This is a spell at action speed that says you may kill a gear, draw 1.
So this is arguably the best gear removal that we have in the game right now. I mean, this card is so good. 2 to kill any gear is just already very great, but at a baseline now, this card draws a card, and it's you may kill a gear. And why that's important is, let's say you wanted to play this just to draw a card. Now you can actually play it, and if you have a gear on the board, you're not actually forced to kill your own gear, which is great. So you could just at a baseline use this to draw 1. It is also action speed, so you can leave energy up to try to play something, and if it doesn't work out, you can just pop their gear and draw a card. Or you could just draw a card if you wanted to. I think the only thing that like holds this card back from really being the best gear removal in the game is that it does cost a power, which rightfully so, it is a very powerful effect. But I think this card is great. You're going to see this in a lot of sideboards if gears start to get really powerful, maybe even some main boards, because it does replace itself. I think this card's a 7 out of 10. This is pretty much almost the best. It's arguably the best gear removal in the game, if not the best.
Yeah, I think I would give it like a 6. It is really, really powerful. The only thing that's holding it back a little bit is that recently there was a ruling where this does require a gear to be in play in order to cast it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is really weird because it doesn't read like that whatsoever. But there was a Chinese regional where this was ruled that way, and apparently that is the intended. Even though it has the you may kill a gear, you apparently still do have to target a gear. It's not super intuitive what's new with Riftbound, but yeah, because you can't just cycle this, I think that does bring it down a little bit. I don't know if that would change your score, Alex.
Yeah, that does change my score. If you can't, I would give this card probably a 6. Maybe that's a little too high even, because I thought you could just cast this and cantrip, but I guess cards do require targets to be played in this game. That's something I should have thought about. So yeah, I'll give this card a 6.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's your fault at all. No, I don't think anyone would read this card and think that that's how it works, so. What's new? Next up, we have Solari Chief for 5 energy and a power. This is a 4 might unit that says when you play me, choose an enemy unit. If it is stunned, kill it, otherwise stun it.
So it's nice to see that there's some payoff for stunning guys outside of just like they can't do combat damage. This is one of the best payoffs we have right now for the stun mechanic. He's a 5 for 4, which is, or 4 for 5, which is a little understated. He does cost a power, but if you pull off the upside of just blowing up a guy, this guy's incredible. And at a baseline, he still does stun, which is pretty decent. I think the drawback is just being able to stun a guy and play this guy in the same turn. But this is one of the best stun payoffs that we have right now, so I do like him in that regard. He has some genericism to him. I don't know if I just made that word up, but he does have the upside of like, he can just stun a guy even if you're not a stun deck. I think this card is pretty decent, but again, I don't think it'll see much play outside of stun decks. I think this card's a 6 out of 10, and it could be a lot higher though as the stun deck gets better, because this is such a good payoff and it is pretty cheap too. It's only 5.
Yeah, we do have a lot of stun effects that are at battlefield, but I think there might be a few that hit base. And as we get more that hit base, this guy would become even crazier because he can actually just like be a body that snipes units at base. There's not really anything in the game that does that right now. Outside of like Harness Dragon, which we'll see later. Even if you don't have the stun, the fact that you get some upside from playing this and he does impact the board immediately is exactly what we want to see from like something with a power and a decently high cost. So I like 6. Next up, we have Spectral Matron for 4 energy and 2 power. This is a 4 might unit that says when you play me, you may play a unit costing no more than 3 and no more than a power from your trash, ignoring its cost.
This card is solid, a very good Reanimator based card. It does cost 2 power, which is a little steep, but you get a 4 for 4 plus a 3 whose cost you don't have to pay. So assuming that you're bringing back a 3 that would have costed a power, now you pretty much get that on rate. You paid a power for this and you would have paid a power for that effectively. I think this card is solid. It's especially good in hook-based decks where you get to kind of just use this to fish for something else or use the thing you bring back to fish for something else. It's a very good, aggressive early game Reanimator type card. Again, 2 power is a little steep, but I think for an effect like this, it would have to be 2 power, especially that considering this guy is also a 4 might. I think this guy is solid. I'm going to give this guy a 7. He could maybe even be an 8. I really do like this guy, but we'll go with 7 for now.
Yeah, I think the Matron is a crazy card. Definitely the engine of the hook decks. Like, this card is the reason you want to be playing hook decks, but even outside of hook, started to see some mid-range decks just playing this because getting like 7 might for 2 power out of a 4 cost is pretty good, especially across like multiple bodies. And if you can bring back like Vanguard Captain because it's a 3 that costs 1, then you get like 4 bodies for 1 out of 1 card. Like, this card can just steamroll a game. It's really powerful. It's almost pushing an 8 for me, but I think I'll give it a 7 for now.
That's kind of how I felt too. I was like, is it an 8? I'll give it a 7, but it's pushing there.
Yeah, for sure. Next up, we have Symbol of the Solari for 1 energy. This is a gear that says, if a combat where you are the attacker ends in a tie, recall all units instead.
I don't really understand what the point of this is. I guess it pushes their guys out, which is kind of all right, but I don't think that's like, so you recall all your units, and then if you had something else that's untapped, you could put them in there, but that's only in the case where you're a tie. Yeah, I mean, I guess this is like if your opponent pulls some combat trick or something, but you'd also have to already have stunned something, because that's the only way you can actually end in a tie, is if your unit doesn't deal enough damage to kill their unit, and their unit doesn't deal damage to kill your unit, so that's only if they're stunned. This has such a like niche, weird application. I don't really understand where this card is going to be like useful in any way. Just like, it's like a failsafe for stuns, but I just don't think this card is very good. It has such like niche applications. I'm going to give this card a 3 out of 10. I just don't see this being very good.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan either. I think 3 is fine for the card. It's cheap, which is cool. Like, it is not hard to just fill this into your curve and actually be able to play this, but I just don't know how many times you're actually going to trigger this effect. And even when you do, I don't know how many times it's actually going to be very good. Like, if you stunned a unit to stun their unit, like say with the Facebreaker card we saw earlier, then they both go back home, and so you got to push their guy off the point. You still have to have another unit to go actually take that point. And if outside of a stun deck, this is obviously just an awful card that you're never going to be able to use. Like in a vacuum or in sealed, you're going to pass this every time. So yeah, not a great card. Next up, we've got Vanguard Helm for 2 energy. This is a gear that says when a buffed friendly unit dies, buff another friendly unit.
So this is effectively a way to just kind of trade buffs. It costs 2, which feels a little costly for this type of an effect. It requires multiple units to be on the board. Also, if the unit that died, if the unit that you're trying to transfer to already has a buff, you can't put a buff there. So it is a way to like kind of keep juggling buffs, but it only works if your board's not already maxed out on buffs and you do have other units. I think like those conditions on top of the cost plus the upside just doesn't really do it for me. I mean, I could see in a deck where you're really buff hungry and you're just trying to play any card that offers buffs in any manner, like you're using them a lot, where this gets a lot better. But we don't really have that right now. And I think for set decks, for example, or Leeson decks, they're just better ways to get buffs. I don't think this card is very great. This is going to be another 3.
Yeah, it's a 3 for me. I'm not impressed by this card at all. It's just not very good.
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
Next up, we have Vengeance for 4 energy and 2 power. This is a spell that says kill a unit.
So I talked before how we had seen this for 4. I actually forgot we hadn't technically seen it yet in any of our videos, but here it is. I mean, this is just like an upgrade or downgrade on the spot removal we saw earlier, depending on how you look at it. It does cost an extra power and it doesn't have the action speed, but it only costs 4, which is pretty much the best on rate removal you're going to get for this cost. I think not being action speed is actually the real downside. It's not even the 2 power. 2 power is a lot, But when you get to the late game, you don't mind paying 2 power to just kill anything for 4. That makes your turns very flexible. It even enables you to maybe play like a bomb or a big mid-range unit. But not being action speed is where it gets kind of dicey for me. Not being able to react to combat tricks, not being able to maybe kill a unit that they buff, or respond to like a big unit entering the point. And because of that, that's where I think this card kind of falls off for me. I could see in a control deck where maybe this card is acceptable, but again, like 2 power is still kind of a lot in the early game, especially. I'm going to give this card a 5, and I think maybe that might be generous, but it is still just kill a guy, and it does cost 4, so I don't want to rate it too lowly. But yeah, I'm going to go with a 5 on this one.
Yeah, it's like a 5, maybe pushing a 5.5. Like, just because it hits things at base, I want to give it a better rating, but I do think that the 2 power is just pretty steep, especially given that you can only play this on your turn. But I do think that, like Alex said, if we get a really good control deck in the future that maybe can either is something like Kaisa that doesn't care as much about power cost or has a way to recuperate those channels, then I could see this card seeing way more play. It is seeing some sideboard play now because it is just good, efficient spot removal, but it's not going to see main board play yet, I don't think. Yeah, I'll give it a 5.
Yeah, I think killing something at base is like the redeeming point of this, so yeah, that's why I gave it a 5.
Next up, we've got Albus Pharos for 4 energy. This is a 3 might unit that says, when you play me, spend any number of buffs. For each buff spent, channel 1 ruin exhausted.
So this is a really big payoff for the buff decks, and it's not seeing a lot of play right now, but I do see where we talked before in this video and a few videos earlier about how the buff deck really needed like a big payoff, and this could be it. So if you get to a point where you have a couple more payoffs and your deck is just like going buff crazy, just stacking all these buffs, this is one of the payoffs you're going to see in that deck. He is a little understated, but he doesn't cost power, and I do think having payoffs for these types of decks, kind of like the stun deck payoff, the payoff here is very good. I do believe in the idea of having payoffs for these types of decks, and I think at a baseline, a payoff like this where you could potentially ramp 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 runes is very powerful. I'm going to give this card a 5 right now. I think the difference between this one and the other one is the other one actually does something just generically, whereas this one doesn't really do anything generically. You couldn't ever play this outside of a buff deck at any point, and I think that buff deck has to really be a dedicated buff deck for this to work, unlike maybe the stun guy who kills one, where it could just work in like kind of like a half-ass stun deck. I think this card is still good though. I'm going to give it a 5.
Yeah, I think 5 is good for Albus just because of the potential for him in the future. I think it really is a shame he's not in Lee Sin's colors. Like if this card was in Lee Sin color, I think it would be seeing play right now in the Lee Sin deck, but in order it's not quite as easy to dish out buffs. There is some cards that do it. We've seen some already, but you're not getting quite as many as you are out of like Body or out of Calm. So maybe that's part of why they gave such a strong payoff to this color, to try to push it a little more in the direction of buffs. But as we start to see more buffs coming out in this color, I think that this guy's only going to get better. And yeah, like Alex said, if you could get like a 2 or a 3 channel off of this guy, like you are going to be so far ahead for the rest of the game, and that's a really nice payout. Next up, we have Commander Ladros for 6 energy and 4 power. This is an 8 might unit that says, as you play me, you may kill any number of friendly units as an additional cost to reduce his power cost for each unit killed this way. He has Deflect, and he has Ganking.
So this is like another glorified beat stick. We saw a similar card where it just said for every card in your discard, this gets -1. Well, now this is just for every card you want to sack, this gets costs less power. And he is like a kind of resilient beat stick with Ganking. The problem here is that he's still going to cost 6. He's probably still going to cost you 2 power. It's very hard to sacrifice more than 2 units. And even if you do, even if this guy costed you no power, he's an 8 for 6, which is that's above rate, but not so far ahead of rate that it's like gonna win you the game. It's also on turn 6, which, as we've discussed, the later the beat sticks, the less impactful they are. Deflect is also not hexproof. Deflect just says they have to pay a power to kill this. It doesn't actually give him hexproof. So you could play this and they could still very well have some sort of removal to just kill this. And now you've sacked 3 bodies or 2 bodies or whatever, and this guy just died. Ganking, again, is just like an icing on the cake type mechanic. It's not something that makes or breaks these type of cards. I know there's a lot of text on this guy, and it seems like he's got a lot of keywords. He's beefy, he's early, but I just don't see this being very good, to be honest. Even in a deck where you can consistently sacrifice 4 with little to no pay drawback, I still don't think this guy is great. I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10. I don't see it.
Yeah, RIP to Commander Ladros. He was a crazy Runeterra card. But,
yes, and now he does absolutely nothing compared to what he did.
No, now he's just a beat stick with deflect. And yeah, maybe in like the Aurora order decks, this guy might see some play because those lines of text are pretty good, and that power, or his might, is pretty good when you don't have to pay any power at all. But I don't think in a standard order deck you're ever going to see this guy seeing much play. Yeah, a 4 is fine for me as well.
Listen, beast. You don't stand a chance against Fiora Larot.
Next up, we have Fiora Victorious for 4 energy. This is a 4 might unit that says when I'm mighty, which means she has 5 might or more, I have deflect, ganking, and shield.
So 4 for 4 at a baseline, no power. That's great. That's very good. You're happy to see that. And then at the moment she gets any single buff, well, I guess that's all she can get is 1 buff. But if she gets a buff, whether it's a pump in combat, a coin buff, whatever it is, she gets all this whole keyword soup here. And I do think this card is pretty good, actually. I think buff decks are going to want to play her more in the future as buffs become more plentiful and as you just want bigger beat sticks. She does see some play now even. I think this card is really good. There's not much else to say about it. It's just kind of a beat stick that gets keyword soup. So I'm going to give this card a 6 out of 10. I think it's a solid unit.
Yeah, I like 6 for the Fiora. I do think that there's a lot of units right now in the buff decks that kind of outshine her, but she can be solid sometimes, and the no power is actually really relevant. We'll have to see when we actually get the Fiora champion, or sorry, the Fiora legend, to see if she can take advantage of this unit even more. Next up, we have Grand Stratagem for 6 energy. This is a 3 power spell that with action that says give friendly units plus 5 might this turn.
You need not understand the plan, only believe in it. That's my favorite flavor text in the game, and I love this card. This is a card that I think you're going to see splashing like a pop of in a lot of these wide decks, like Darius, like Victor. This is a card where any of these go wide decks probably won't max the copies unless your whole strategy is just go wide and win with this. But I do think you'll see a lot of them playing 1 or 2 of this as a good option finisher, maybe even siding it. I personally play this in Victor as a 1 of, and sometimes I'll even side an extra copy. I love this card. I think it's great. It like exemplifies what I want out of like a 1 of win condition. It is very power hungry. It costs 3 power, but I think that's appropriate given what this does. It is an action, so you can use this on defense to defend these points and win the game by having your guys in the point at the start of the turn, or you can use it to win the game by just pushing those points. It's very versatile. I just think this card's a powerhouse, and I don't think the 3 power actually matters that much because usually when you're casting this card, you're winning the game. Like that, this is a finisher, and I love this card. I think it's great. This is probably a little high of a rating, but I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I have a soft spot for this card. I just love it. I mean, it's a great card.
Yeah, I think 7 is fair for the card. I think that it's just such a powerful anthem, and the fact that you can use it defensively is really one of the biggest upsides. Like we've talked about many times in these set reviews, typically you don't stack a lot of units into points in the game because that's just not how the game rewards you for playing. But Grand Stratagem actually lets you do that. It actually lets you just push every single unit from your base to the battlefields, and you don't care because there is no way, whether they have a fox, it doesn't matter how many spells they have. Like if you can Grand Stratagem with like 4 or 5 units at a battlefield, there's almost no chance that they're taking that battlefield. And when that's for the final few points of the game, like that's just going to win you the game. This card basically just reads win you the game many times, and it's a very powerful payout for the go wide strategies. Next up, we have Harness Dragon for 8 energy and 2 power. This is a 6 might unit that says when you play me, kill an enemy unit.
This is another like play a pop of card. I usually play 1 to 2 of this sometimes in Victor. He's in and out, but I like this card. It's So it's a 6 for 8, which is understated, and it does cost 2 power, but it just kills a guy anywhere. I mean, that's very powerful. This is like a super Riptide Rex, if you will. Like this card is just very solid overall. I mean, I like this card. I think it's great. I think it's a good bomb, and it has an effect that most other bombs don't have, which is just killing an enemy unit anywhere. I think this card is solid. I think the only thing that kind of holds him back is that he does cost 8, which is like your deck has to be willing to go pretty deep on energy to be able to play this, so it might not be for every yellow deck, but I'm going to give this card a 7 out of 10. I think it's solid.
Yeah, I like 7 for the dragon as well. Big fan of this card. Next up, we have Karma Channeler for 6 energy and a power. This is a 6 might unit that has vision and says when you recycle 1 or more cards, buff a friendly unit.
This is kind of an interesting card. 6 for 6, so it's on rate. It does cost a power. It has vision itself, so you're going to trigger that recycle immediately if you want to. And this is just like another way to get the mass buffs off. Again, this is a card that might be good if there is a deck that requires mass buffs. It is a little slow, though, for an engine card. It does cost 6, so that's a little late in the game for a card like this. But one thing that is kind of nice about it is that it can buff itself, which is really important because, as we've discussed before, 7 is like the magic breaking point for cards, especially cards like this that are creating an engine and you do need to stay alive because they're not geared, so a lot of things can kill them. Immediately being able to put this to 7 is good because it gets out of Singularity range, it gets out of Falling Star range, it gets out of Riptide Rex range. So all those things in mind, I do think this card is, while slow, a good engine card because it is much harder to kill once you get it going. Now you do need a way to actually recycle cards though, so that's one small thing I would note that kind of holds it back. But I'm going to give this card a 6 out of 10. It might be closer to a 5, but I do like this card. It is like a nice little buff engine. She is beefy. She even enables herself right off the bat, so I do like her.
Yeah, I like Carmela. I think 6 is fair for her. 6 for 6 is really good. 6 for 7, as Alex said, is even better. This is also like pretty much the only way to get buffs in this color if you're not in like Calm or in Body. So she is just an engine in herself, and this is kind of the card that you want to pair with that Forge to the Future card that we saw earlier. That gear that recycles 4 cards, and then you can give out 4 buffs. Like, that's pretty crazy. That's one way to actually take advantage of that card. Close to giving her a 7, but I think that she's just a little too high cost for me to push her there. But maybe in the future, if the buff decks in this color are really good, she might even get more points. Next up, we have Karthus Eternal for 3 energy and a power. This is a 3 might champion unit that says your death knell effects trigger an additional time.
So 3 for 3 is on rate, but it does cost a power, and we don't like to see power costs on early units, but he is on rate. He has a very powerful line of text. The problem with him is this. 1, we don't have a lot of really powerful death knells, especially early on, that you'd want to be abusing with this. 2, because death knells have a delay, like you have to actually kill the unit, your opponent has a lot of time to interrupt this by killing him potentially before you're able to kill the death knell guy. He also is 3, which is like the magic number for a lot of these removals, especially Falling Star being so rampant in the meta. It's very easy to just kill this and then kill the death knell thing so you don't actually get your effect. There's a lot of setup that goes into this. All that being said, I can see some sort of death knell, maybe combo deck where you're trying to do this and then trigger some death knell twice, and you have like a card that'll sack your guy, so you don't have to worry about this combo being interrupted. You can just do it all in one turn and kind of just like pop off. And he is cheap enough to actually be a real combo piece. Like if this guy costed 6, I would just say this guy sucks. You're never doing anything with him. But because he costs 3, he can actually function in a combo turn. All that being said, there's not much to do with him now. I'm going to give this guy a 5 out of 10. I do see the potential here. He is on rate stats, but it's not doing it for me yet.
Yeah, I think 5 is fair for Karthus. I think the potential is there for sure, and we'll have to see better death knells in the future. But again, this is one of those gear units that wants to just stay home, never go to the battlefield, so that you don't lose this ability and it dies to Falling Star, which is currently the issue with him. But even if it didn't, like Alex said, I mean, there's not like a ton of ways to pay off with this ability yet. So next up we have King's Edict for 6 energy and 2 power. This is a spell that says starting with the next player, each other player chooses a unit you don't control that hasn't been chosen for this spell. Kill those units.
So this is yellow's equivalent of their party spell. That's what I'm going to start calling these, is the party spells, because they're fun for party games. So, and like most of the party spells, this card is not all that great. It is a 6 for 2 power, and the best thing you can do with it is kill a unit with it, which is fine, but you already have that but better existing. And I can see in a 4v4 game where this card has a little bit more upside, but I think we're rating these for single player for 1v1s, and I don't think this card is very great. I think it's just worse spot removal. I'm going to give this card a 4 out of 10. I don't even think it deserves that. It's probably closer to a 3, but I'm real rough on these party spells. Like I've been brutal on them in the past, so I'm going to give this one. This is probably the best of them we've seen so far, so I'll give this card a 4.
I agree. It's definitely the best one we've seen so far just because it says kill a unit. And at least unlike the last one that we reviewed in Chaos, which lets your opponent target your own stuff, this one specifically says they can't choose units that you control. So in like a 4-player game, you're guaranteed to kill 3 of your opponent's units and none of them can pick your stuff. So your stuff stays alive, and for 6 you kill 3 units. That's pretty good probably in a 4-player game, but in a 1-player game, it's the most overcosted Call of the Week ever, and not that great.
Yeah, I think, like I said, 4 is probably too generous. This is just the most expensive Call of the Week imaginable, but it is still like spot removal, so like maybe it's probably closer to a 3. I don't know, but I'm trying to be nice to these party spells.
Next up, we have Leona Determined for 4 energy and a power. This is a 4-might champion unit with shield that says, when I attack, stun an enemy unit here.
A solid unit, 4 for 4 is on rate, does cost a power, but it has shield 1, so she's going to block for 5. She also has an effect when she attacks, so she's got versatility on both the attack and the defense, and a very good one too. She just stuns a unit. Any stun deck is going to play this, especially Leona, because this is going to be their champion of choice. This is, I think, even a very good sideboard card. We see this card sided against Master Yi a lot because they're only putting 1 guy in the point, so you just get to stun that guy so it doesn't deal damage and then overrun it, whether you have to send just this in or a couple others. And then Yi also doesn't attack very well into points, and she's going to block for 5 just by herself, so she kind of does both jobs against Yi. It's not quite a silver bullet, but it's a very powerful sideboard card against them. As well as, even on its own, I think this card is just good. It's just a good standalone card. I'm going to give this card a 7 out of 10. I just really like this card. It's solid. I think it's very good.
Yeah, I think 7's perfect for Leona. Just a really good card on both attack and defense. Can't ask for too much else. Next up, we have Machine Evangel for 5 energy and a power. This is a 4-might unit with Death Knell. Play 3 1-might unit tokens in your base.
This is a very good card against control decks, especially where they're just looking to remove your units and you're just like, haha, here's 3 more. I like this card. I think it's good. It does cost a power and it is a little understated, but you're okay with cards like this being understated because they're going to die anyways. Like, the objective of these things is they're kind of suicide bombers where they only need to win fights against little guys. And then when your opponent has to inevitably use a piece of removal or a bigger guy to run this over, you just spit out 3 more guys to do whatever you want with them. I like cards like this that die and kind of just replace themselves with more units, especially 3 bodies, which is great because if you are playing like a board buffer like Grand Stratagem, now you've kind of just added bodies that you can use for that. I think this card is solid. Costing the power is a little rough, but I think this guy would be a little too good if he didn't cost the power. I'm going to give this guy a 6 out of 10. I think this guy's a solid card.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on the Evangel. I like bodies that give me more bodies, and definitely a really good mid-range unit in the token decks. I think the more stratagems you're playing, you're probably going to want to be playing some amount of this guy.
These fists ain't just for show.
Next Next up, we have Set Kingpin for 4 energy and a power. This is a 5 might unit with tank that says I get +1 might for each buffed friendly unit at my battlefield.
Probably the worst of the two sets. I mean, tank is nice, but again, this is just like an icing on the cake mechanic, as I'd like to say. I don't know, again, like, how many units are you sticking into a battlefield at once? Not a whole lot, and now they all have to be buffed for this guy to get bigger. Now, one thing you'll notice about this guy is he is actually a 5 for 4, which units very rarely exceed their energy cost in might, but this guy does, so that is one upside to him. He is very big, but he does cost that power. I also just think it's rare you're going to use this as your champion unit in set because the other one is just so much better. I think this guy is fine. He is above rate stats-wise. I just think his effect is a little niche, and the tank doesn't do a whole lot to move the needle for me. I'm gonna give this guy a 6 out of 10, and that might be a little generous. Maybe he's closer to a 5, but he is still kind of big, and he still does have tank at a baseline. So like, even if you take his effect away, he's still just a 5 with tank for 4, which is probably encroaching on a 6, I would say.
Yeah, I like 6 for Set. I think he's pretty strong, especially if you can get a buff on this guy. Like, the tank happening that early, especially if he is coming in buffed, is like a 7 might unit with tank is pretty much gonna soak up everything, and it kind of lets him play in a way where he can send additional units with him, even if it's just like 1 extra buffed unit with him to make him even bigger. And like, you don't have to worry about that buffed unit dying. It's just kind of adding to his might because he's going to soak up the damage. Normally a lot of the tanks that we've seen are either too weak or they're in that range where like, yeah, it's already turns, you know, you're already paying 6 or more for it, so at that point things are slamming at you for 6 to 8, so the tank isn't going to be too relevant. But I do actually think that his tank comes up probably more than any other tank unit I've seen, just because of how early in the curve he comes in. So I like this card. He's all right.
What happens when an outsider destroys the balance of this land?
Is this another one of your riddles, old man?
A test, perhaps.
Next up, we have Shen Kinko for 3 energy and a power. This is a 3 might unit with reaction, meaning you can play this card from your hand at reaction speed. And he has shield 2 and tank.
This is currently one of my favorite sideboard cards in the game. I love this guy. I think he's awesome, and I'll tell you why. He's a 3 for 3, so he's already on rate. He does cost a power, which you hate to see on early units. He is reaction, which I don't believe any other unit in the game has currently. So you can play this guy on your opponent's turn, and you can play him in a point if you currently control that point as well. And then he is shield 2, so if you're playing him to that point when your opponent's attacking it, he's now a 5. And then on top of that, he's a tank. Why this card is so good is it's going to enable for some serious blowout games against aggro decks where you're going to have like, let's say you're Victor, for example, you just have a token in the point and your opponent's like, okay, I'm going to swing my 4 in. You have 3 up and you're just like, okay, here comes Shen. They don't have a way to deal with him. He's a 5. He's going to wall and protect your token, but he's also going to kill that aggro unit. And now you've got the Shen for the rest of the game until they kill it that's going to block for 5 whenever you need it to, as well as tank the damage from potential tokens. So this can really be a huge blowout against those types of aggro decks. It's also very good too, because if your opponent, say, tries to play a removal to kill something in the point, you can go, okay, well, in response, because it's reaction speed, I'm going to put the Shen in there. You'll remove whatever my like tiny unit was. Maybe it's a Poro or whatever. But now I have the Shen in here who's a 5, so you still can't push this point, and I'm going to get to hold it. I mean, I could go on and talk about all the utility and options and upsides of this guy, but I'm just going to explain it to you with my rating. I'm going to give this guy, this is too high probably, but I'm going to give this guy a 7. I love this guy. I think this guy is incredible. He's hands down my favorite sideboard card in the game, and probably one of my favorite units as well.
Yeah, I think Shen is awesome. Not only is he just a very powerful tank unit and our only flash guy, as Alex mentioned, but he's also really cool flavor-wise, like Shen in League of Legends. If you guys haven't played League and are just kind of checking out Riftbound, he's like a ninja that basically teleports onto a unit. He could basically teleport anywhere on the map and go straight to a unit, and then he protects the unit while he's channeling his teleport to get right there with the unit. So that's exactly what he does in the game, so it's such a flavor win. And not on top of being a flavor win, it's actually a really powerful effect. So I'm a big fan of Shen, both in League and in Riftbound. Love this card. Next up, we have Baited Hook for 3 energy. This is a gear For 1 energy and 1 order power and an exhaust, you can kill a friendly unit. Look at the top 5 cards of your main deck, and you can play a unit from among them with a might that has up to 1 more than the killed unit, ignoring its cost, and recycle the rest.
So pretty much how this works, because it is a little unintuitive, is you kill a guy and you can get something that has 1 more power, the same power, or anything less, pretty much. This card is incredible. It is one of the only real like combo type deck pieces things we have in the game right now that's really good. There's so much you can do with this. This card has so many applications, and I think this card is going to make for a lot of fun / broken decks in the future. It already kind of does. Especially one of the biggest interactions I'm looking forward to with this is Nocturne. We currently don't have a deck that can play both this in Nocturne and Nocturne in the same deck, but when we do, I promise you it's going to be very, very good. But yeah, this card is just incredible. It bypasses the cost. It does cost a power and an energy to activate, but when you're summoning things that are going to cost pretty much that anyways, it's going to be very good. This is just a great way to cheat guys out. Again, this is another card where I could sit here for hours and hours and probably talk about all the different applications and way you can use this, but this is just an absolutely incredible card, and I think it will only get better as the card pool gets bigger. The only thing to note about this card is that if the unit does not die, it will not work. So you can't try to do tricky stuff with like set or like some sort of like way to keep your guy alive. Your guy does actually have to hit the discard for this card to see the power of that guy so it can go and find something, so you can't really trick the game that way. But even with that in mind, this card's still incredible. There's no initial power cost either. I think this card's amazing. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, like a really, really solid card, and I think it will only see more play as the card pool gets bigger.
Yeah, I definitely think the card's going to get more busted as the game progresses. Like, if anyone came from Magic, you all know how good Birthing Pod was. This isn't quite Birthing Pod, but it's pretty close, and I just have already seen this being used in multiple order decks and just seeing a lot of broken stuff come out of it. Like this, even at a baseline, just being able to send a unit to the point, crack it, and then search for something else that's an even better, higher costed unit and set it back at your base so that you don't have to worry about getting traded back on is really good. But there's just so many more applications, and you guys are really going to see that this card is pretty crazy. Yeah, I'll give Baited Hook an 8 as well. Really strong card.
What separates men from lesser men? Fear.
Next up, we have Darius Executioner for 6 energy and a power. This is a 6 might unit that has Legion when you play me, ready me, and the same Anthem effect that Garen had. Other friendly units have +1 might here.
Makes you wonder, why would you play Garen?
Yeah.
So they saw Garen and they just said, well, fuck you, Garen. We're going to make something that's even better than you in the same exact color. So yeah, I mean, Legion, again, it comes in ready with Legion, which is great. It has this upside of giving other units +1, which again, as we talked about with Garen, that doesn't really do all that much, but this guy actually has a pretty good base effect of being able to untap himself. So that other effect is kind of just icing on the cake. It's just like a little upside, so it's not going to take anything away from him. He is an expensive Legion trigger, but again, if you're playing things like Seals or cheap units, kind of like Darius usually does, it shouldn't be too hard to get this guy online. He does cost a power, but again, playing Seals, that doesn't matter. He's a 6 for 6, so he's a little bit slower. He's a little bit more costly, but still very good. I think this guy is still decently solid. I think one of the things that holds him back is the other Darius is just a little bit better than he is. But still, I think this guy is decent. I'd give him a 6 out of 10. He's not incredible by any means, but I think any beat stick that can come in ready at a baseline is still pretty alright in my book.
Yeah, I like 6 for Darius. He's just better Garen. Next up, we have Divine Judgment for 7 energy and 2 power. This is a spell that says each player chooses 2 units, 2 gears, 2 ruins, and 2 cards in their hands. Recycle the rest.
This is an interesting reset card. These exist in every game, and they're usually either unplayable or busted. I think this one actually kind of finds a nice little middle ground. This is going to be a very good sideboard card against ramp decks where you're not really doing anything but ramping up, and you're able to just kind of reset them. You reset their hand because they're sitting there just like accumulating hand advantage because they're only playing one card a turn. They're trying to ramp up their runes, and you kind of just reset all of that. And if you're aggroing them, you don't care. You're just like, sure, like, I'll go down to 2 units. I'll go down to 2 cards in hand because you have nothing now. You can't play any more bombs. You don't have any cards in hand. I think this card's a solid sideboard card, and it probably gets more applications in the future. I can definitely see this card being even more broken at some point. I think it's just a solid card, but mostly as a sideboard card, but maybe one day it gets to the point where it's main board. I'm going to give this card a 6 out of 10. It's just a very powerful effect just reading it. Like, it's hard for a card like this to be bad.
Yeah, I like 6 for the Judgment. I think that the cute combo right now that people are playing with this is like you play an Aurora and then you play this so that both players go down to no resources, and then you're slamming a bomb every turn, and there's pretty much no way with just 2 cards in their hand and 2 ruins they're going to be able to deal with a bomb every turn after that. But against Aurora, as Alex mentioned, this is also just a really good sideboard card because you could just nuke all their ramping and get rid of all the cards in their hand and stop them from basically doing what they're trying to do. And if you can do that while even just having 1 or 2 units on the board, you're going to just run away with the game. So I think that this card probably won't see main board play unless we get more ways to like really abuse it and really not have it set you back too much in like a standard game. But I do see it seeing a lot of sideboard play in the future. Next up, we've got Seal of Unity, 0 energy and a power, and it makes a power.
You guys know the drill. If you've been watching our videos, the seals are 5s. These ain't moxes, guys. They're close, but not quite. They're good cards when you see them early, and they're bad cards when you see them late. Now, the yellow one is kind of nice here because it does go in the Darius decks. This is probably actually the most playable of the seals. So maybe based on that knowledge, this one would be a little higher, but we're very committed to the bit of we're giving all the seals a 5. They are what they are. They're fine. They're playable in some decks, but again, you have to see them early or they're not great, and they only work in very specific decks. So That's where we're at with those.
It's a 5.
They cling to suffering because it is familiar. They flee from affliction because they cannot comprehend it.
Next up, we've got Victor Leader for 4 energy and a power. This is a 4 might unit that says when another non-recruit unit you control dies, play a 1 might recruit token unit in your base.
So this is the Victor of choice for the Victor decks. And this card's solid. It's not, funny enough, it's not actually good enough to play in the main deck, but it is good enough. I mean, you're always going to play a champion, right? But as a champion, it's actually quite good because it creates this almost gear-like effect of, okay, this is just going to make your guys spawn more guys, which is really good. The downsides to this are just, it is a little fragile. A 4/4 is on rate. It does cost a power, but it is hard to send this guy into combat because the objective of him is to stay alive, so you can keep creating more things, which sometimes he does very well when he sits in the back row. But a lot of times you are going to have to send this guy into combat for tempo reasons, and it kind of just leaves him vulnerable to being killed. He also does not create a token for himself when he dies, which actually, I think that moves the needle a little bit for me on this guy, because if he made one for himself when he died, I actually think he'd be a lot better, like significantly better if he did that, but he doesn't. So I'm going to give this guy a 6 still, though. I still think he's a solid unit. I still think he's pretty good. He is the better Victor champion. He is well statted, and he can sometimes snowball against these control decks where you just like keep throwing out these like tiny little shitters that are replacing themselves, and he just like, they can't get to him in the backfield, and he kind of just like keeps churning out units for you, which I like. So yeah, I think he's a good card.
Yeah, I think he's above average for sure. I like 6 for Victor. It is worth noting as well that this does specify non-recruit units, so other tokens that die, like things that coming off the Sprite Mother and stuff, those will still generate tokens for Victor, which is pretty cool. And he is respectable in his might, which is really good because, as we've mentioned so many times, these units that just want to sit at home and kind of are like pseudo gears all die to Falling Star, but Victor actually doesn't die to a single Falling Star. They'd have to use the entire spell on him, which just makes him one of the better gear cards for sure. And that's going to be it for our set review. That's pretty much it. If you guys want to check out the rest of these videos, we have all the links down in the description, and we also have a playlist where you can watch all of them in succession. Not sure if we're going to be doing the set review the same way next set. We are going to be doing one once we get set 2 reviews, I think we'll start seeing new previews in November. So once those are all finished, we'll start working on a new set review. If you guys have more suggestions as to what kind of set review you'd like to see, we've thought about maybe doing a tier list or presenting the information in some other way. So let us know in the comments. If you guys like what you saw and like what we're doing here, please subscribe for more, and we will be coming out with more content in the future. We will see you guys soon.